Well, howdy. This is an interesting tale of the 19th century. So once upon a time, around 1843, a fellow in France developed a new and improved system for running a revolver. His name was Casimir Lefaucheux, a very French name. And the system he developed was called Pinfire. And the way Pinfire worked, I'll use this 5090 brass as an example. Rather than having a primer on the head of the cartridge, Lefaucheux, remember this had not yet been invented. Lefaucheux put a little bit of primer compound on the side of the case, drilled a small hole here, and put a little brass pin in it. Then he designed guns so that the hammer would strike not here, but here, and that would ignite the powder charge inside, and the cartridge would go off. Well, he developed that in, it was 1843, and it did pretty well for a long time. He died in 1858, alas, but his son Eugene, in 1853, had already developed and patented another innovation. You ever heard of the roll-and-white patent? That was the patent on the bored-through cylinder. Well, Eugene Lefaucheux actually patented it a year before roll-and-white, only in France. And this is an example of his work. These are Lefaucheux revolvers. Now, this one has a broken mainspring, so it doesn't actually work. But it's an interesting example of type. It has a spur trigger that comes loose when you cock it, if it would cock, but this thing will not cock at all. I bought this at an auction for dirt cheap because no one knew what it was. And earlier at a gun show, I bought this one. Now, I did another video about this one because Othais at C&R Arsenal was doing a review of his, one that he had in hand. I think his was Swedish. This is a standard Lefaucheux pattern, and they were commissioned by many different militaries and private sales, and this one was private. But it's a dead ringer for the one that Othais was showing off. So I did a video and described it just as a way of saying, hey, Othais, look at this. I got exactly the same thing. And it went for what for me was a viral video because it got like 1,400 views. Believe me, for me, that's a viral. Anyway, this one is no longer a pinfire. It's been converted to centerfire, but it's a good example of type. You'll notice these little notches here on the cylinder. That's for the pinfire to stick through. Well, some time ago, someone, oh, come now. Oh, that's why. Someone cut off the rest of the hammer, which would wrap around and slam this, and installed this firing pin on it so that it could then contact the hole that was then drilled through here so that you could use a centerfire cartridge. Well, there was no indication exactly what centerfire cartridge it was designed for. So I pulled the cylinder off, you take this screw out, and then just like a Lamotte, you roll the barrel completely off of the gun, and you can pull the cylinder out. So I could mic the cylinder and figure out that it's about 44 caliber. Well, what I did is I experimented, and I got shorts and one, quote, long. Those are made out of 44 specials, cut down with a lead ball in them and black powder. These are cap and ball, and they work in it. These are reloads because I've already cut them down and shot them at least once. And it works. The way that it works is very much like a single-action army. That's the loading gate that just flops, as you can see. And it has this bizarre pin that has no spring or anything. So you have to make sure that it does not do that while you're holding it. So it's not exactly something I would use as a main defense weapon in any case. But it's a fascinating example of type. Take a look at those little notches where the pinfire pins would go through. I don't know if anyone who makes a pinfire these days other than there's a little noisemaker revolver you can get that's a blank firing gizmo. I used to see it many, many years ago advertised in the back of comic books of all places. And the system it used was Pinfire. I think that was designed as a means of getting around some kind of import restrictions or something. But that's the only gun I'm familiar with these days that uses Pinfire. I don't even know if it's made anymore. But if you're interested, this is just an example of type.